Hi guys, welcome to this first video about the solid principles where we will examine the S, which stands for single responsibility principle. Before I begin, I want to tell you that I have a GitHub repository where you will have all the code snippets that I am completing here. I'm using an IntelliJ project where I provide for each letter. So this is the S, then there will be a new package for the O and the L and so on. Now, in this, I have two more packages, the bad and the good. The bad is, let's say, the code snippet that violates each principle, and the good is when we fix that violation. Okay, so here we start with, firstly, maybe let me say that the reason I make different packages here is so that I can reuse the same classes, the same class names without having overlaps. Okay, so here on the bad, I have these. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So this you will see violates more than one principle, but okay, one thing at a time. Now we're focusing on the single responsibility principle, which states that a class should have only one reason to change, meaning it should only have one job or one responsibility. Okay, it should serve one purpose. Okay, now in our scenario here, we have a class that supposedly sends through the network with this line, okay, submitting OTP, a one-time password that was received through an SMS to our API to validate. But also, before doing so, our send method doesn't do that before making sure that our OTP passes some standards in order to be submitted. Okay, and it does it with this is valid method function. So the is valid function takes our OTP, and depending on what type of OTP we are validating, okay, it sets some standards like when we're validating an email, it should check whether or not it is 6 characters long and just digits. But if it is a bank, it should be 8 characters long, of course, digits, and it should start from 541, for example. Okay, so this is like a pre-validation in order to submit our OTP, our one-time password that we received through an SMS for a two-factor authentication, obviously, that we want to do. Now, here, obviously, as you see, we are violating the single responsibility principle. And the reason is that the class, the sender class that we have here, okay, that sends the OTP to our API, should not also make the pre-validation. Okay, the pre-validation is something else that could possibly be used at another location of our application as well. So imagine that if we had this functionality here, we would possibly need to repeat the same code at a different part of our application. So there is a big violation happening here. So this pre-validation should not be part of the functionality that submits the OTP to our API, but it should rather come externally. Okay, so how can we make this piece of code comply to our single responsibility principle? Well, let's open the good here and let's just take this and use it as a starter code to our fix. Okay, and here, in order to fix this, the only thing we actually need to do is to supply our OTP sender with a validation externally. So let's do this. Let's define a class which we will call OTP validator. Okay, and this OTP validator will contain this is valid. Okay, Normally we would do this at separate files, okay, but in order to visualize this better, I do it in a single file. So just so that you don't write this on the comments, okay? So here we will need to supply this validator to our class. So we can do this with in the constructor, okay? OTP validator of type OTP validator, okay? Here we can also just initialize an OTP validator, and like that. Now it is the OTP validator that we pass as a dependency that does the checking, and if all okay for our strategy, okay, so for an email, okay, this will obviously pass because it is 6 characters long and it's just digits, okay, it will continue to submitting the OTP, and if I just try to run the script will run and it will just show us that for our S rule, we are successfully submitting the OTP by fixing our violation to the S rule. So here, let me just put this side by side. So as you see here, what we really changed is just that we had both functions in a single class, but now we have two classes with a single purpose. And now our sender utilizes the content of the validator in order to make the pre-validation while keeping its functionality just here, where we could have more and more lines of code, okay, which does the submission, okay. So that's pretty much for the single responsibility principle. As you saw, it is a very important principle because it allows us to modularize our code into individual snippets that can be easily reused anywhere we want without having to rewrite code. Okay, so that's all for the S principle. See you on the next one.